Everything changed for the Eagles in a matter of hours. Out of nowhere, a piece they were counting on, and honestly, desperately needed, is suddenly gone. The retirement of Zadarius Smith hit the team like a brick wall, and now the front office might be forced into some pretty wild moves to keep this season from spiraling out of control. Because let's be honest, things are already starting to feel a little too familiar in Philly. 2 straight losses, the most recent one being an absolute meltdown against the Giants. And suddenly the ghosts of past collapses are back. People are already bringing up the 2018 team that couldn't hold it together after their Super Bowl high. Others are thinking about the 2023 squad that started the year on fire and then just imploded down the stretch. And while this 2025 roster isn't exactly a copy-paste of those teams, it's hard to shake the feeling that we've seen this movie before, and we didn't like the ending. Now, losing Zadarius Smith wouldn't normally be a complete disaster for a healthy, deep unit. But here's the problem. The Eagles were already hanging by a thread when it came to the edge rusher position. Smith might not have been lighting up the stat sheet, but he was leading the team in sacks. That's right, 1.5 sacks led the team among edge rushers. That's all you need to know about how thin and ineffective this group has been. And now, poof, he's gone. Just a little over a month after signing with the Eagles, Smith hopped on Instagram and announced that he was stepping away from the game, citing it was time for the next chapter of his life. Look, retirement happens, sure. But the timing? That's what raises all the questions. Because when Smith first came in, he was hyped. He was talking about how he had plenty left in the tank, that he was still young in the game, that he was fired up to contribute. And now, barely a handful of games into the season, he's out? Of course, there's been speculation. Some think he looked at the state of the team, saw a season slipping away, and decided it wasn't worth it. Others are buying the report that it was personal reasons and had nothing to do with football. Either way, the Eagles just lost one of their only semi-productive edge players, and it's left the unit looking more exposed than ever. Let's not sugarcoat it. The Eagles' edge rush production this year has been close to non-existent. Behind Smith's 1.5 sacks, Patrick Johnson has 1. Everyone else, zilch. Nolan Smith is still out through the bye week. Agbo Arono is done for the year, and the team is down to just 4 healthy edge rushers heading into the matchup against the Vikings: Jelix Hunt, Josh, Azeez Ojulari, and Patrick Johnson. Not exactly a murderer's row of pass rushers. Sure, the coaching staff has tried to show confidence. They've come out and said the usual things. We believe in our guys. They've got potential. We'll figure it out. That's great for morale, but it doesn't fix the fact that the pass rush has been lifeless for weeks. And now they're scrambling to plug a gap that Smith just widened by walking away mid-season. It's not just about replacing snaps. It's about replacing any sort of threat on the edge. And right now, that threat simply isn't there. So now the pressure shifts to Howie Roseman. Because if there's one thing we know about Howie, it's that he's not going to sit on his hands when there's a problem to fix. He lives for this. The trade deadline is approaching, and all eyes are on what the Eagles will do to fill this glaring hole. It's not a luxury move anymore. It's survival. The retirement of Smith might have forced the Eagles' hand, and now it feels almost certain they'll need to make a move. Names are already floating around, and there are quite a few intriguing options. Jalen Phillips from Miami is a guy that's been linked to Philly for a while now. He hasn't exploded this season, just 1 sack so far, but his previous seasons show he can be disruptive. He's still young, still on his rookie deal, and Miami's off to a rough start. If they decide he's not in their long-term plans, maybe they're willing to listen to offers. Then there's Bradley Chubb, also from the Dolphins. Now, this one's trickier. He's older, more expensive, and coming off an ACL injury. But the upside? He's under contract through 2027, so it's not a one-and-done rental. He's got 4 sacks already this season, which is better than what anyone on the Eagles' edge unit has done. The question is whether the Eagles want to absorb that contract, and whether they believe he's still got high-level play left in him. But maybe the most buzzed-about name is Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. He's been on Eagles fans' radar since way back in the offseason. He's on a 1-year deal, Cincinnati's season is going south, and he'd be a plug-and-play solution for Philly. The downside? He's not cheap, and there are long-term salary cap implications if they wanted to keep him. But for a short-term rental to spark this defense back to life, he might just be worth it. And let's not forget about Jermaine Johnson from the Jets. A lot of teams have been calling about him, and he'd be a fun addition. He's productive, has upside, and already has ties to some of the Eagles' defensive players from his time at Georgia. But like with most of these guys, the cost will be high, and that's where things get complicated. Other names like Cam Jordan, Arden Key, and Kingsley Enagbare have popped up too. They're not stars, but they're serviceable and available. And right now, serviceable and available might be enough to stabilize this rotation. The big challenge here isn't just identifying talent, it's beating out the competition. Every team with a playoff shot is hunting for edge help right now. The Eagles won't be the only ones making calls, and if they want to land a difference maker, it's probably going to cost more than they'd like. But again, Howie Roseman is known for making something happen when it looks unlikely, so don't rule anything out. And speaking of unlikely, let's talk about the noise surrounding a possible C.J. Gardner-Johnson reunion. Because the moment he was released from the Ravens practice squad, Eagles fans lit up the internet. This is a guy who brought swagger, toughness, and attitude to the Eagles' secondary, and when he was in Philly, the defense felt different. More aggressive, more fearless. Right now, that edge just hasn't been there. The secondary looks soft. The whole defense lacks juice. Gardner-Johnson isn't just available, he's interested. It was reportedly a mutual decision to leave Baltimore, and almost immediately after that, the Eagles released a running back from their practice squad, possibly making room to bring someone new in. The signs are there, and while there are no guarantees, it wouldn't be shocking if the team brings him back to inject some much-needed energy into a defense that has looked exhausted. And yes, some are pointing out that the Eagles let him go for a reason back in March. Maybe there were issues behind the scenes. Maybe they didn't like something off the field. But when you're in the middle of a season that's threatening to spiral, and a guy like CJ is right there for the taking, sometimes you have to put all that aside. Winning changes everything. So yeah, the Eagles might have no choice but to get aggressive. They need reinforcements, fast. The pass rush is a mess. The secondary needs a jolt. And while the coaching staff can talk about having confidence in the current group, actions speak louder. Whether it's a trade or a reunion, something has to give. While all eyes are on the defense and the potential moves that might be coming, the reality is that the offense has been just as much of a problem, if not more. And the biggest issue? It's stale, predictable, lacking rhythm, creativity, and any kind of identity. The unit that was once feared across the league now looks like it's stuck in quicksand, running the same plays over and over again with no clear adjustments or sense of urgency. And yeah, there are injuries, and yeah, the team has had a brutal schedule, but none of that excuses how lifeless this offense has looked. You watch the tape from the Giants game, and it's almost hard to believe what you're seeing. Every third down call looks like a copy of the one before it. The same formations, the same route concepts, the same checkdowns short of the sticks. Defenses don't even have to guess anymore. They know what's coming. They're sitting on routes, jumping passing lanes, pressuring Hurts without fear. And the worst part is, it feels like there's no adjustment coming. At least not one that we've seen on the field. The coaching staff has been saying the right things publicly. They're talking about wanting to be more efficient on first and second down, about cleaning up execution, improving play design, fixing the run game, mixing up the looks. All good in theory. But it's been 6 weeks, and we've been hearing those same promises for most of that time. At a certain point, talk doesn't mean much. You have to show it on the field. And right now, the Eagles are showing the exact opposite. One of the most glaring issues is how conservative and repetitive the passing game has become. The Eagles aren't stretching the field the way they used to. There's no real vertical threat being used consistently. And when you look at the all-22 film, it's clear teams are just sitting on underneath routes. The tight ends are running stop routes. The wide receivers are getting mirrored routes. Every snap starts to look the same. There's no deception, no disguise, no misdirection. And when you're that easy to read, even a struggling defense like the Giants can look elite. Now, some of the blame falls on the players for not executing. There have been missed blocks, dropped passes, and questionable decisions from Hurts. But the bigger issue is the overall scheme and play calling. Kevin Patullo is under the microscope right now, and for good reason. His press conferences haven't exactly inspired confidence either. It's been a lot of coach speak, a lot of vague answers, and not much in the way of accountability or real solutions. That doesn't sit well when your offense can't move the ball in crunch time. The run game, which used to be one of the team's biggest strengths, has completely fallen off. There's no rhythm to it, no commitment. Half the time it feels like they're just running for the sake of staying balanced rather than attacking weaknesses. The offensive line hasn't been as dominant as in past years, and with injuries piling up, it's even more important to establish some kind of consistency in the ground game. But that just hasn't happened. And this predictability is killing any momentum the Eagles try to build. Brian Baldinger broke down multiple plays from the Giants game where the Eagles ran the exact same concept on third down 3 different times. Same formation, same route combinations, same result. Short gain, 4th down, punt. It was so obvious that even casual fans were calling it out during the game. And if fans can see it, you better believe defensive coordinators are licking their chops watching this tape. This offense was built to be explosive. It was built around dynamic weapons like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. It was supposed to be a nightmare for defensive coordinators. Instead, it's become a routine, an easy one to defend. And that's a problem that goes way beyond execution. That's on design, creativity, and coaching. Now, the Eagles did have a mini-bye week after their Thursday night loss, and there's hope that they use that time to self-scout and make some real adjustments. But until we see it on the field, hope is all it is. And with the next game coming up against the Vikings, this offense has no room for error. They need to come out looking completely different, not just talking about change, but actually being different. One of the subtle yet noticeable changes has to be unpredictability. That's the key. Switch up the tempo. Use motion more creatively. Throw in more play action. Take shots downfield early in drives. Run different route combinations that keep defenses guessing. Right now, it's like the opposing team has the Eagles' playbook. That has to stop. And honestly, it starts with the mentality. This offense looks hesitant. They're reacting instead of dictating. And for a team with this much talent, that's unacceptable. Another thing that absolutely has to improve is situational football. The third down numbers are bad, red zone efficiency is mediocre, and time of possession has been swinging the wrong way lately. This team used to dominate those areas. Now, they're struggling to even stay on the field for long enough to give the defense a breather. And speaking of the defense, it's no surprise they looked gassed. They've been carrying way too much of the load because the offense can't sustain drives. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments, and let's talk birds. Philadelphia fans woke up to a bombshell this morning. A.J. Brown, the star wide receiver who has electrified Lincoln Financial Field with jaw-dropping catches and game-changing plays, will reportedly no longer be suiting up for the Eagles. Sources close to the team suggest that the move was sudden and has left both fans and analysts scrambling to make sense of the situation. While official statements from the Eagles remain scarce, insiders hint that internal disagreements over contract negotiations and team strategy might have triggered the split. The timing couldn't be more shocking. Brown has been in peak form, dominating defenses week after week and cementing himself as one of the most explosive offensive weapons in the league. Eagles supporters, who had pinned high hopes on him leading a championship charge, are now expressing outrage on social media, calling the decision unthinkable and a betrayal of the fans. The rumor mill suggests that tensions may have been simmering behind closed doors, with disagreements between Brown and the front office reaching a boiling point. Some insiders claim that Brown felt undervalued despite his contributions on the field, while others speculate that the Eagles are pivoting to a new offensive direction, one that seemingly doesn't include their star receiver. The fallout is already making waves across the NFL. Sports analysts are predicting a frenzy in the trade market, with top teams reportedly lining up to make offers for the 26-year-old playmaker. Meanwhile, Eagles coach Nick Sirianni is expected to address the media later today, likely attempting to calm a fan base that feels blindsided. Whether this is the beginning of a shocking mid-season trade or a longer-term contract stalemate, one thing is clear. A.J. Brown's departure, or potential departure, is the talk of the town, leaving fans divided, frustrated, and desperate for answers. Philadelphia's football community is now left asking a single, burning question. How could the Eagles let one of the most electrifying talents in recent memory slip away? As whispers grow louder, one thing is certain. This story is far from over, and every move in the coming days will be scrutinized under a microscope. The city waits with bated breath, hoping for clarity, but bracing for more drama in what could be the most controversial chapter in Eagles history. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.